This podcast assumes that you have a general knowledge of the Tate LaBianca murders. Sharon Tate Polanski, Jay Sebring, Wojciech Frykowski, Abigail Folger, and Stephen Parent were murdered on Cielo Drive in Los Angeles on August 9, 1969. Lena and Rosemary LaBianca were slain in their Los Feliz residence the following night. Charles Manson, Charles Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Quenwinkle, and Leslie Van Houten were convicted of those murders. Say hello to the Goodbye Helter Skelter podcast. Hi, I'm George Stimson. Welcome to the 30th episode of the Goodbye Helter Skelter podcast. And in this episode, we are again going to hear from Kenneth Thunder Nowlin. Thunder Nowlin is 44 years old. He has been in either youth detention, jail, or prison since he was 15, except for a 9-month stretch of freedom when he was 21. Currently, he is on California's death row at San Quentin State Prison. But for over a year, in 2011 and 2012, he was incarcerated in a cell next to Charles Manson in California State Prison Corcoran's Security Housing Unit, or SHU. Because of this association, and because of his own decades-long experience in prison, Thunder Nowlin has unique and unparalleled insights into Charles Manson. Those insights are worth hearing. Here, Nowlin explains his assessment of Charles Manson as a warrior of the light, based on precepts laid down in the inspirational work of the same name by Paulo Coelho. Good.
There you are.
Hey, you look good.
Let me see if I can get the volume up a little bit.
Okay.
Let me see. All right.
Yeah.
Let me see. Talk.
Yeah.
I'm using there's two different devices. I got my tablet, and then there's a stationary tablet right here, so I'm using a stationary tablet.
Okay.
But anyway, I can't hear you. Are you talking?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I wanted to talk today about this book, The Warrior of Light, right? And the reason is honestly, I have no idea if Charlie ever read this or not, but it is like, I mean, if I had to guess who wrote it, I would have said Charlie wrote it, or it was written about him. And there's a book called The Alchemist, and it's by Paulo Coelho, and this is the inspirational companion to The Alchemist. But if you notice, like if everyone get a copy, in the very beginning here, there's a part about children. And as you all know how I've talked about baby on the floor and stuff like that, about how you let the baby bump his head and do his thing, and you let him form his opinions and form his life, and you don't put your fears and your problems into him. So in the beginning of this book, before it's even paid or numbered, there is something that says, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. And then it goes on, you may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. It goes on a little bit more, but the important part I wanted to point out here was, you may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. And I thought that pretty significant. Now, Warrior of light. See, anybody who's connected with Charlie, they're soldiers of Atwell, whether they know it or not. Because we're in a war. We're in a war with pollution. And there's many forms of pollution. There's lies, there's betrayal, there's corrupt, morally corrupt, souls. There's many forms of pollution. And Charlie was focused on the pollution of the earth, because that is what takes priority. If you focus on morally corrupt pollution and ignore the pollution of the earth, and then the earth dies, well, you just died before you can fix the pollution of the soul. So it's all about priority. And there was many kind of pollutions. And being a soldier of Atwa, a soldier is a warrior, and a warrior of light is a great book. It's a simple book. It's very simple, and it's supposed to be a manual. But I wanted to read you a couple little tidbits here and there of parts that I marked off. For example, page 2. All the world's roads lead to the heart of the warrior. He plunges unhesitantly into the river of passions always flowing through his life. The warrior knows that he is free to choose his desires, and he makes these decisions with courage, detachment, and sometimes with just a touch of madness. And then it goes on a little bit about madness. And Charlie had that madness, man, but you had to be free and let yourself go and not care what other people thought to have that touch of madness, man. Otherwise it didn't work. There's another part on here, page 3. A warrior of the light does not rely on strength alone. He makes use of his opponent's energy too, especially when you get old, and you don't have that strength. When he enters in the fight, all he has is his enthusiasm. He moves and strikes that he learns during his training. As the fight progresses, he discovers that enthusiasm and training are not enough to win. What counts is experience. Then he opens his heart to the universe and asks God to give him the inspiration he needs to turn every blow from his enemy into a lesson in self-defense. So while people thought that they were getting over on Charlie and hurting him or using him or whatever, they weren't. He was using all that as lessons in life, and he may give the appearance, but that's all it was an appearance. Page 5. Do not be ashamed to make a temporary withdrawal from the field if you see your enemy is stronger than you. It is not winning or losing a single battle that matters, but how the war ends. Even if you are very strong, never be ashamed to feign weakness. This will make your enemy act imprudently and attack too soon. There are so many things in here, so many key things written. And this book was written, I think, in 2009 or 97 or something like that. Charlie had to have read this, because I knew Charlie like nobody's business. I'm not saying I knew Charlie on every topic there was, but I knew Charlie about prison and passions and philosophies and all that kind of stuff. And when I read this book, it was like I brought him alive again just by talking about this stuff. Here's one on page 6. It's odd, the warrior of light says to himself, I have met so many people who, at first opportunity, try to show their very worst qualities. Their very worst qualities. They hide their inner strength behind aggression and hide their fear of loneliness behind an air of independence. They do not believe in their own abilities, but are constantly triumphing their virtues. A warrior reads these messages in many of the men and women he meets. He is never taken in by appearances and makes a point of remaining silent when people try to impress him. He uses these occasions to correct his own faults, for other people make an excellent mirror. A warrior takes every opportunity to teach himself. Man, I don't know how many of you all knew Charlie, but some of this stuff here, it rings so true. Let's see, the warrior of light sometimes fights with those he loves. The man who defends his friends is never overwhelmed by the storms of life. He is strong enough to come through difficulties and carry on. He does, however, often face challenges from those he is trying to teach the art of the sword. His disciples provoke him into fighting with them, and the warrior demonstrates his abilities with just a few blows. He disarms his students, and harmony returns to the place where they met. Why, brother, do you do that when you are so much better than they are? Asked the traveler. Because in challenging me, what they really want is to talk to me, and this is my way of keeping the dialogue open, replies the warrior. But the sword is metaphorical. It doesn't. This book was not meant for a warrior with a sword. I mean, it could be, very well could be, but it's meant for our sword in life is every struggle and every fight we've ever had, and the tools that we have to do it with. And that's a lot what this means. Let's see. Before embarking on an important battle, a warrior of the light asks himself, how far have I developed my abilities? He knows that he has learned something with every battle he has fought, but many of those lessons have caused him unnecessary suffering. More than once he has wasted his time fighting for a lie, and he has suffered for people who did not deserve his love. Victors never make the same mistake twice. That is why the warrior only risks his heart for something worthwhile. Man, in life, it's hard to find stuff that's worth your time and your devotion in your life. But Atwa, man, there ain't nothing more important than Atwa. Like Charlie told me, man, without Atwa, without a world, without life, what have we got? We've got nothing. Everything else takes second to that. Let me see. A warrior of the light is never predictable. He might dance down the street on his way to work, gaze into the eyes of a complete stranger and speak of love at first sight, or defend an apparently absurd idea. Warriors of the light allow themselves days like these. The warrior of the light does not worry that to others his behavior might seem quite mad. He talks out loud to himself when he is alone. Someone told him that his best way of communicating with the angels, and so he takes a chance and tries to make contact. At first, he finds this very difficult. He thinks that he has nothing to say, that he will just repeat the same meaningless twaddle. Even so, the warrior persists. He spends all day talking to his heart. He says things with which he does not agree. He talks utter nonsense. One day he notices a change in his voice. He realizes that he is acting as a channel for some higher wisdom. The warrior may seem mad, but this is just a disguise. I mean, anybody who knew Charlie, everyone thought he was crazy. I mean, even those who loved him and were close to him, they thought he had bits and spouts of craziness. And you know what? He might have, but if you think about some of the things that this thing says, I mean, it really touches me. Let's see. For the warrior, there is no better or worse. Everyone has the necessary gift for this particular path. But certain people insist, they provoke and offend and do everything they can to irritate him. At that point, his heart says, do not respond to these insults. They will not increase your abilities. You will tire yourself needlessly. A warrior of the light does not waste his time listening to provocations. He has a destiny to fill. Another one is the moment that he begins to walk along it, the warrior of the light recognizes the path. Each stone, each bend cries welcome to him. He identifies with the mountains and the streams. He sees something out of his own soul in the plants and the animals and the birds of the field. Then, accepting the help of God and God's signs, he allows his personal legend to guide him toward the task that life has reserved for him. On some nights he has nowhere to sleep. On others he suffers from insomnia. That's just how it is, thinks the warrior. I was the one who chose to walk this path. In these words lies all his power. He chose the path along with which he is walking, and so he has no complaints. I'll put this book up for a while, but if anybody cares to, it's called The Warrior of Light by Paulo Coelho. It's a great book. And this last part on here, the reason I'm putting it up right here is about in those words lies all his power. He chooses that path along which he is walking, and so he has no complaints. The hell? All right. Can you hear me better, or is it still staticky?
Better. Much better. No static.
All right, good. You was able to hear me, though, on the last one, right?
Yes, completely.
Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna continue off with this book that I was reading and where I stopped at about, I'll read this last part and stop there. The moment that he begins to walk along it, the warrior of the light recognizes the path. Each stone, each bend cries welcome to him. He identifies with the mountains and the streams. He sees something of his own soul in the plants and the animals and the birds of the field. Then, accepting the help of God and of God's signs, he allows his personal legend to guide him toward the task that life has reserved for him. On some nights, he has nowhere to sleep. On others, he suffers from insomnia. That's just how it is, thinks the warrior. I was the one who chose to walk this path. In these words lies all his power. He chose the path along which he is walking, and so has no complaints. So, I had asked for people to start asking questions for me that I could answer about Charlie. And one of them was how he felt about rats. And Charlie hated rats, man. I mean, he absolutely hated them because he had the chance to get out and he didn't, and he could have. All he had to do is point a finger and say he did it, or he made me do it, or he said to do it, and next thing you know, he's out, okay? But when you take on a challenge in life, and Charlie was living the hippie way of life, when you take on a challenge of life, no matter what it throws at you, you take those consequences. Those are your consequences to bear. You don't point at another man and say, it's his fault, let me out of my chains and put him in chains. That's not how Charlie felt. He hated rats, but that's only because they didn't live the way that he did. And over there in PHU, it's full of rats. Everyone over there was telling on him, and that's another reason he hated them. Everyone's telling on him. You couldn't do anything and get away with it. And it thoroughly pissed him off. He didn't even want to be over there. When he was in the shoe next to me, he refused to go back. He stayed in the shoe longer. Me and Star both had to convince him to go back because, we felt like it wasn't good for him over there. But, so the thing about the rats and everything, I want to refer to this right here. And that is when you choose a path, that's your path. You can't complain about it. You can't go putting the responsibility off of somebody else. That's why you should be so careful in the path that you choose. Because when you choose the wrong path and it bites you in the ass, all you've been taught is that baby on the floor is to tell. I mean, think about it. How many kids run around? It was her. It was him. It was her. You're taught as a child to tell. You know, society teaches you to tell. You don't tell, man. Like there's certain circumstances, I guess, where a normal person who's not in the game would tell, but you don't tell, man. I love this book because there's so many things in here that pertain to Charlie, man. The Earth's energy needs to be renewed. New ideas need space. Body and soul need new challenges. The future has become the present, and every dream except those dreams that involve preconceived ideas will have a chance to be heard. Anything of importance will remain. Anything useless will disappear. It is not the warrior's responsibility, however, to judge the dream of others, and he does not waste time criticizing other people's decisions. In order to have faith in his own path, he does not need to prove that somebody else's path is wrong. Let's see. If he waits for the ideal moment, he will never set off. The warrior requires a touch of madness to take the next step. The warrior uses that touch of madness, for in both love and war, it is impossible to foresee everything. Let's see here. All right, the warrior of the light knows that no one is stupid and that life teaches everyone however long that may take. He always does his best and expects the best of others. Through his generosity, he tries to show each person how much they are capable of achieving. There was nobody more generous than Charlie. I tell you this much: anything that anybody ever sent him, that they brag about sending him, and I did this and I did that, I guarantee you Charlie gave it away, and he didn't brag one bit about giving it away. What he would do is when somebody would say thank you and I can't believe he did that, is he'd say, just remember, whatever you put out into the universe comes back tenfold. Let's see. Every warrior of the light has felt afraid of going into battle. Every warrior of the light has at some time in the past lied or betrayed someone. Every warrior of the light has trodden a path that was not his own. Every warrior of the light has suffered for the most trivial of reasons. Every warrior of the light has at least once believed that he was not a warrior of the light. Every warrior of the light has failed in his spiritual duties. Every warrior of the light has said yes when he wanted to say no. Every warrior of the light has hurt someone he loved. That is why he is a warrior of light, because he has been through all this and yet has never lost hope of being better than he is. I'll stop again, but we've got to get it together, guys, because Charlie's been gone a while now, man, and he had high expectations. And if we don't come together, if we don't pull together, if we don't unite in a common cause and start doing this right, get rid of the negativity, then what are we going to have? We're going to have a deceased Charlie. If we do this right, if we could pull everyone together, if we could get everyone to unite under this one cause, man, this one freaking cause, whether it be to build awareness for pollution, whether it be to actually do things, take a proactive step instead of a reactive step. If we could do something to make a change, then the closer
we will come to bringing him back alive. And I want my brother back. And he used to tell me, man, I got it stuck in his head that he'd never die, that he'd live forever. Because he kind of was worried about death, and that's why I ended up reading him the Tibetan Book of the Dead. But I kept telling him, Charlie, as long as you are remembered, as long as your baby Atwa is continued on, as long as what you have left in this world is built upon, then you will never die. You will never die. You will be in the eyes of everyone. Everyone will be saying your name, and not from murders or nefarious means, and that got him excited because he really, really, really was worried about death for a while, and it got him excited and it got him out of it. Now, I left there and I didn't get to talk to him the last few years, but there was someone that did get to, and it was there with him in his dying days that would know more about it than me. But that's up to him if he wants to come forth and say something. But I just want you all to know, man, I'm here. Give me some questions. Let me know what's up. I'll answer the best of my ability. I mean, I knew Charlie and like the back of my hand, man. We were one and the same. I'm not saying I'm him. I'm just saying, man, our experiences were one and the same. And when you experience the same thing and you're talking a lingo that the world don't understand, you understand it, So I don't know how long I'm gonna be having this fine little kiosk thing here, because I'm going back to the building, and I'll be transferring soon. Not sure where I'm transferring, but have some questions. Leave some questions. George will get them to me, man. Or download this GTL Getting Out app, messaging app, or GTL Getting Out visiting app, and I got no problem talking about Charlie, man. I love that man, and there ain't nobody more deserving than talking of than him. But other than that, I'm gonna go for today, and I appreciate your guys' patience and time and understanding and listening and ears and hopefully hearing, and definitely get the book. Oh, now you can't see it. Anyway, get the book, Warrior of Light. And in fact, the first book, The Alchemist, was a great, phenomenal book. Had nothing to do with warrior stuff, but The Alchemist was a great book. This is even better. But it's the warrior life. It's a soldier of Atwa's life. It's the way that we need to live, and we need to coexist. Y'all can't coexist. Read this book, live by that book, and I guarantee you'll not only be coexisting, but you'll be thriving. And you'll be thriving, and Charlie will come alive. Charlie will come alive right there before your very eyes, man. Anyways, I appreciate y'all's time. All right, George. Take it easy, buddy.
Charles Manson, Warrior of the Light. Thank you, Thunder Nowlin. This has been the Goodbye Helter Skelter podcast, the podcast dedicated to the truth about the Tate LaBianca murders, Charles Manson, and more. The views expressed on this program are solely those of the individual speakers, and they do not necessarily represent the thoughts, ideas, or opinions of any other persons, either living or dead. Visit our companion website at www.goodbyehelterskelter.com. There you can find more information about this podcast, Also, check out the Goodbye Helter Skelter Facebook page for information on upcoming programs. And let us know what you think by way of contact@goodbyehelterskelter.com. We will address any comments, questions, or concerns on future installments of the Goodbye Helter Skelter podcast.